since it is Veterans Day and we have people here who lived through that experience of war, take a moment for those of us who haven't experienced it to imagine what that is like, to put your life on the line for a concept, an idea. And it's not just one moment or one time, it's a period of time, it's a service, it's a commitment that you're feeling, whether you're in the path of danger or not, that possibility is there, and it's on your mind every day as you go to sleep, as you wake up, not just for you, but for your comrades, for the people that are there with you going into the process. Now, of those people who were in the war, how many of you had a friend or know people who were killed who didn't make it back? Yeah. Yeah. So let's take a moment to really send love, appreciation, and gratitude to all those people who have struggled and fought and put their courage on the line for freedom, for a concept. And then let's bring that concept into our hearts. And we're going to talk about the spiritual warrior. And I know for all of us, in our heart of hearts, we would love to envision a world without war, where no one would have to do that anymore, would have to go and move to that level of needing to protect someone to be willing to kill someone else or put their life on the line. And so let's take a deep breath into what that would be to be a spiritual warrior. Because my feeling is that's what a spiritual warrior is about. It's about someone who is committed to doing whatever they can do to take the steps to bring peace and harmony before it gets to the point where we're actually in a physical conflict. And we know that right now that is still going on in the world. People are still fighting. But what can we do right here in this peaceful place to help bring an end to that? And my feeling is by going within. Our unity principles say, go within, peace, be still, or be still and know. So how many of us have battles that go on within us each day? Right? And that's what the spiritual warrior is dealing with. Those inner battles. How's the best way to show up? It brings me to one of the quotes that I came to when I looked up online about Veterans Day and good quotes. Valor is what this quote is about. It says, perfect valor is to behave without witnesses as one would act were all the world watching. So just take a moment to breathe that in. You know, we have a public face that we put on the way we want to show up, and then there's that private person that sometimes that selfishness can come up. And so let's just ask ourselves, where in the world do we show up as our best self, even when no one is watching? Where is that part of us that connects with that inner guidance, which I like to call spirit, which to me is the spiritual warrior? Are we listening to that inner voice that is connected to the bigger picture, that is connected to the grander good of all, or are we connected to that little ego mind voice that just wants immediate gratification, wants the easy way out, wants what we want right now? And so that's the act of the spiritual warrior. I loved the blowing in the wind, which is so powerful, those powerful spiritual questions. How many times, how long can we continue to do that? How many bombs do we need to send out there until we realize that this isn't working? We can't do it anymore. And so our spiritual warrior is the one that goes within, and it's similar to what we did, what I hoped I did with you guys when we took that moment to say, we want to build this church. We want more people in this pews. We want to spread the energy we feel here out to the world. How do we start to do that? The first place is to go within and feel that connection with spirit, that power within us. My background, what brought me to spirituality was yoga. It was about getting grounded in my body and my physical presence here and now. And there's a pose in yoga called the warrior pose. And I'm going to get up here and show you what the warrior pose looks like. It's a nice wide stance where you ground with Mother Earth. You feel that energy and that connection with Mother Earth. You bend yourself forward, leaning into a very active, forward-moving stance. And then you hold your front arm out, your back arm up. It's a pose of protection. But the protection is not about sending out a bomb or bad energy. You're sending love from your heart out through your open hand with this energy of spirit behind you. So this is the spiritual warrior. This is the warrior pose in yoga. And what you're sending is love. And the concept is, if that love is flowing out of your heart with clear, powerful intention, no harm can come to you. No good will come to you, because what you're putting out is then going to come back. And whenever I do that pose, I want to do it on the other side so I can feel the balance, I feel the energy in my body. I feel an opening sense in my heart, and maybe you can even sense that there's a change in my demeanor. So these are tools that the spiritual warrior can use. There are ways of getting grounded in the body, feeling that energy of spirit flowing through you, and sending love to the world. The most powerful weapon we have. So, I want to tell you a story. I have not, in this body, in this lifetime, been involved in war, in conflict. And I am so grateful for that. I bless those who chose to do that or were called to do that, that allowed me to live the peaceful, joyful life that I've lived. Not that I haven't had my share of inner conflicts, but the blessings is I never have had to put my life on the line and see my friends die or possibly have to kill another human being. In another lifetime, however, I did experience that. And I don't know if you believe in past lives. For me, it's something I believe in, but I do, whether you believe in past lives or not, I do know that in our DNA, we carry the cellular memory of all our past generations. So somewhere within us, we have experienced that war. When I went and did past life regression in 1987, I went to the Light Institute, and it's not where someone tells you, oh, you lived this lifetime. They bring you into a light hypnotic state, and you literally remember these different lifetimes. And they tell you, ask your higher self what you need to experience or learn, what lifetime you need to remember to move you forward on your path and for your soul's highest good. So it's very powerful. You call in higher power and you begin to see these different lifetimes. And I saw many, but one of the most powerful ones that I saw that I'm going to share with you today was a lifetime where I was 16 or 17 years old, a very young man, and I was a soldier in the Civil War. I was a Union soldier, and I was very excited about being able to go to war. I was fighting for my country. It was something that I believed in. My father and my sister and my mother all, said, oh, congratulations. They were so proud of me. They sent me off, and I went very gung-ho, and suddenly I found myself lying on a battlefield. I think it was a very large battlefield. My sense was that it may have been Gettysburg. I was lying there, my legs had been blown off, I was in extreme pain, and the emotional turmoil that I felt was worse than the physical pain. And the way this process works is the facilitator kept saying, move into the body, this is what you need to learn. And I kept saying, I don't want to, and tears were coming down my face. She said, go into the body, you need to experience this. This is why your higher self is showing you this. So I went into the body, I began to cry even more deeply, and what I felt much beyond the physical pain was this sense of betrayal, this sense of extreme loss and regret that at 17 years old, my life was over. And all I could see as I looked around was hundreds and hundreds of other kids dying. And it just seemed overwhelming to me, the loss and the grief. And I couldn't let go. And I knew there was something that said, let go of your body, the pain will be gone. And I couldn't let go because it just seemed too terrible to give up. And I looked next to me, and there was a Confederate soldier who was in about the same shape that I was, and I thought that he had already died. And I saw him move, and he opened his eyes, and our eyes connected. This was the enemy. This was who I had been trying to kill. And as our eyes connected, there was this compassion and this sense of connectedness. And we both closed our eyes at the same time. Through that connection, we were able to allow ourselves to release the body. We floated up out of the body, and as I floated up out of my body, I saw his spirit float up. And it was just this beautiful color of like bright purple. And I looked out over the field. Pain slipped away as I slipped up out of the body, and all these souls were lifting up out of their bodies, and they were coming together in this great soul over. And at that point, my facilitator said, okay, now that you've lifted up out of your body, ask your higher self, what was the learning? What did you need to learn from this? And there was a lot of lessons, because it was a long lifetime, but the main one was that I needed to trust my heart and not listen to what the outside world said. And it was that certain choices are made at a soul level that the ego level doesn't understand. And so to forgive myself for not following my heart and for allowing myself to do this, forgive myself, because part of the guilt was that I had killed a number of people before I got to that point. And it was to forgive yourself. And as I looked around at all these lights coming together, I realized that each and every one of those people had learned a powerful lesson. And that each one of them was moving to a space that was bigger and greater than themselves. And that this game of humanity that we were in the process of playing was coming to a time when we would no longer have to do that. And that going through this process allowed us to begin to let go of the need to struggle at that point. So, what I want to share with you about is where I think we are moving to in this 2012 point of human evolution. And it's a very hopeful point, because I really feel that we are moving to the point where we're going to be able to really let go of the need to kill each other. And this awareness is going to happen because we're going to realize that we're not separate anymore. And it's beginning to happen. It's part of the unity principles, unity itself, the word, united together. We talk about one power, one presence. So many movements now are about really people coming together and feeling their connectedness. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the veil, which is something that when I did past life regression, I really experienced. Because you realize that this body is one reality. When we're in the body, we get very focused in the physical and in the here and now. And yet all of us, I'm sure, have had experiences of something beyond. Something beyond. So what I want to invite you to do is just take a moment to close your eyes now and take a breath and just see if you can remember a time when you've had the experience of moving beyond the veil, or having a communication, or even if it's just something you knew somebody was going to call and then the phone rang, or felt the presence of a loved one who had passed on. An intuition, a déjà vu, a premonition from a dream. once you've had that memory, when something comes up, feel free to open your eyes. So we've all had that experience, that there's more to life than what the five senses can bring us. And what that more is, or a big part of it, is the connection to humanity, the human family. And I'm going to read a quote. This is from Bruce Lipton, who is a stem cell biologist and quite amazing. He comes to us from biology, and yet listen to what he says. We're going to have to come together and realize the evolution that we're facing is not the evolution of the human being. That happened 200,000 years ago. We're already evolved. The evolution that is in front of us is the evolution of something greater called humanity. What that means is, we talked about the human body is 50 trillion cells coming together to make a human unit called the human being. So that's, according to him, it's 50 trillion cells are in our body working in harmony to make each one of us. And now, on the planet, we have 7 million beings, like the cells in a body called humanity. So our evolution is all humans recognizing we are part of one superorganism. When the cells fight each other in the human body, we call that autoimmune disease. Well, right now, humanity is suffering from autoimmune disease because we're killing each other and not recognizing that we are one organism. So I just want to take a moment to breathe into that knowing, because my feeling is that the way we move forward is allowing our consciousness to get it, allowing that to sink into our heart. And that knowing allows the veil to become thinner. How many people have noticed an empathy growing in them lately? Feeling more connection with people on the planet? How many people, when they looked at the news and saw what was going on back east, felt a connection, felt similar feelings that those people might be happening? It's growing in all of us. And sometimes it can be painful, and it's going to make us want to put up our defenses because we feel for each other. And that's what makes us, the ego, want to put up defenses. But guess what? We're getting stronger. We're getting more compassionate. This evolution of the human species, or the species called humanity, is growing. We're coming together. The internet is a beautiful example on the outer world of what's going on the inside. We're connected now electronically to the entire world, through the internet, through Facebook. Just amazes me. I can't figure it out, but it amazes me. And I want to talk about war and some of the things that we've been fighting for, which always makes me laugh, in a very ironic type of laugh. What's one of the number one things we fight for when we go to war?
Peace.
Thank you.
What did you say?
Peace.
Oh.
Peace. We fight for peace. It's very funny. What's one of the other things we fight for? Freedom. Freedom. Right. And it's important, because do we want peace without freedom? We really want both, right? And can you have peace without freedom? Right. And freedom, to me, brings me back to the concept of free will. And free will means, what will I do? How will I spend my time? Where will I focus my energy? And if we are willing to focus our energy on peace, finding that peace within, sharing peace, or whatever we can do to bring peace into the world, peace into our relationships. Sometimes the best way to be peaceful is to allow someone else to have their anger and their angst and not take it personally. not have to jump in. To be the person who surrenders. Isn't it interesting that we go out and fight for peace, go to war for peace, and if we surrender, it means we've lost the war, and yet all the spiritual leaders, all the spiritual books tell us that we only find peace and we find God through surrender. So where in your life can you surrender to peace? Where can you be the spiritual warrior and send that energy of love without having to do anything else? Can you stand in the midst of conflict and be a presence of peace? I want to end with the next part of my story from that past life regression. I'm going to take you forward from the Civil War, when I was living in another body, into this body back in 1992. My very, very good friend, my best friend at the time, was dying of AIDS. And it was so interesting when I read Bruce Lipton's quote, and he talked about what's going on with the humanity body is the autoimmune disease. And this is what Jeffrey was dying of, and many of my friends were dying around me at that time because the gay community was being decimated by this disease that was attacking the body. And I did a lot of meditating at that point. I was in fear just like everyone else was because we didn't know where this was coming from. Was I going to be the next one to die? I didn't know. And what came up for me in my journaling was a lot of journaling about looking at society and the confusion about what it meant to be a male, what it meant to show up as a man in this society where we were rewarded and honored and hailed as a hero if we could go off to war and kill another man. But if we were to express love physically and express that to another man, we were considered a pariah, we were considered deviant, and then there it was showing up in our own community as a disease that was killing us from the inside because we loved each other. And the gift that I saw as that tragedy and that epidemic began to unfold is what happened is it brought us together. It galvanized the gay community. We came together, we supported each other, we found cures, we found ways to support each other so people began to live much longer lives, and we became visible. We said we're not going to go away. We're not going to, even if we're sick, it doesn't mean we're bad. And we showed up. And as you can see, since the 1980s, we are so visible. This new generation does not see any problem or difference. The fact that Barack Obama was elected again, and he was able to give his speech and talk about gay, straight, black, white, old, young, there is a coming together and acceptance in humanity. So, what I want to share is that when my facilitator, when I did the past life regression, asked me, which she did with each lifetime that came up, because everyone that came up in each lifetime was someone who resonated in my life today, because that's the way higher power works. It's there to give you guidance. And this was 1987. She said, do you recognize that soldier, that Confederate soldier that you're looking at? Is it someone you know in your life today? And I said, yes, it's my friend Jeffrey. It's my friend Jeffrey. 4 years after that, he was diagnosed with HIV. 2 years after he was diagnosed, I was sitting at his bedside. He'd gone into a coma. He would once in a while come out. I was there every night. And he was ready to let go, but he was so afraid to die. Very similar to what I felt when I was on that battlefield. He was so afraid to let go of his body. He was filled with regret for what had happened. At 40 years old, his life was over and he was dying just from him trying to follow his heart and do what he felt was right. And I sat there, and we'd gotten to the point where I could really communicate to him without saying anything. He had dementia, took him over, which was actually a blessing because he stopped fighting and he was able just to relax and be present and allow others to help him. And I sat there, it was 48 hours before he actually passed, and he was struggling. And with each breath, I said, Jeffrey, it's okay. Not with my words, but just with my thoughts. Jeffrey, it's okay. His eyes were closed, and with each exhale, he would let out this weak, sad cry. After about 5 or 10 minutes, his breathing slowed, he stopped making the sound, and then he opened his eyes. And he hadn't opened his eyes for maybe 48 hours before that. And he looked at me, and I didn't say, but I thought, Jeffrey, I love you, and it's okay to let go. You had a wonderful life. You went to more Broadway shows than anybody I know. You were filled with life. You changed my life. You changed the life of everyone you met. It's okay to let go. And I said to him in my mind, we died together on the battlefield. I never told him the story because he didn't believe in any of that stuff. And I said, when you leave your body, you will be filled with love and compassion. And you'll understand what this life is all about, and it's okay to let go. Tears fell down his cheek. He fell into a deep sleep. I left, and the next day his brother moved him down to hospice care in Washington, so I wasn't able to see him. But the next night he passed. And when I felt that he had passed, I was actually at a Broadway show because it was my next night free. I felt this relief, and I began to release, and I knew that he was free. So my message that I want to share with you on this Veterans Day is to visualize, feel, hold in your heart what it would be like for the world to be without peace. What this body that we call humanity could accomplish if we stopped fighting each other and cured this autoimmune disease and could begin to thrive, to come together, to feed the hungry, to house the homeless, to be there for our neighbor, to not have to react when someone pulls in front of us and say, oh, maybe they're late, bless you, hope you get there on time. And how much for our spiritual warrior inside, how much more peace and joyful our lives would be each day if we made that our intention to move forward with peace and harmony. So thank you. I so appreciate being invited back here to continue to share with you. And let's see this place full.
Yes.
All right? Bless you. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy your Veterans Day. And thank you, veterans, again.